Hi, Tracy. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
You're good? Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming in for our session today. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just start off with by just checking in and seeing how you've been doing. It's been about a week, I think, since I saw you last, and so I'm just interested to find out how you've been over the last week or so.
Um, Pretty stressed out. I was gonna say I'm in grad school and I'm getting ready to try and figure out my practicum for my last one. And I'm just worried that I'm not going to be able to find anything, or I'm going to have to quit work to do my practicum. And that just, if I quit work, then I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, and it's just a lot of stress.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe you have a lot going on, a lot that maybe you're worried about in regards to work and schooling and maybe figuring out how to balance all that and make that work.
Yes.
So you said stressed. That's the word I heard you use quite a bit in regards to how you've been doing. Any other emotions or feelings you've been experiencing over the last week or so?
Mm, Worried, scared, aggravated a little bit. That about covers it.
Okay. Um, what seems to be, is it just everything in general, or is there something that seems to be more so that's impacting or causing these stressed, worried, scared feelings?
Well, my supervisor at work was not very cooperative getting my first practicum put together. I started looking for other jobs, and I guess when they thought I was serious about leaving, they decided to work a little harder to help me figure out a practicum. Well, this one is going to be more hours that I have to do, and I'm just aggravated or worried. I'm honestly don't know what word to give it. Thinking about depending on somebody else to help me get my practicum put together.
Okay, so having to rely on somebody else maybe makes you feel a little uneasy.
Absolutely, yes.
Um,
I'm
so
not in control that way. I have to depend on other people, and that's very uncomfortable.
okay. It's so far it sounds like work and school and how those mesh together um, have been definitely having some impact on your mood and on your feelings over the last week. I'd really like to, as long as you're all right with it, get input from you as far as what you want the agenda for our session to be and what topics you want to focus on. So obviously, and if it's all right with you, I would like to jot down some notes as we talk about the things that we talk about. And so one of the things that I'm going to note is work and school are definitely an area that it sounds like you maybe want to work on or talk about. Are there any other issues or other problems you've had over the last week that you want my help with addressing that we can add to our agenda?
No, I think those are pretty much the ones that take up the most space.
Okay. So then we have a definite area where to start. Our focus is going to be on your feelings over work issues and school issues. Does that
Yeah,
sound like a plan?
that sounds wonderful.
Okay. So just tell me, you've said setting up your first practicum through grad school was not the most positive experience for you, I guess. And, that goes hand in hand with work because you're working with people that you work with to help set that up. So I guess tell me more about what's been going on. Tell me, like, what is there anything that's happened specifically that's caused this stress and this aggravation and this worry?
Well, with my first practicum, when the supervisor was being unwilling to help, he called a meeting with all the people involved and pretty much turned and looked at me and in front of everybody informed me that my practicum wasn't his problem.
Yeah.
So I'm very leery I'm very distrustful of his help, and I'm doubting his genuineness in wanting to help with my second one.
So yeah, that definitely sounds like that was not a positive experience for you. To not have to have to be dependent, I guess, on the people that you work with to get help and to get assistance with something as big as a school practicum, and then for them not to really, it sounds like you didn't maybe give it the consideration or give it the importance that you feel like it deserves.
Well, when I was hired, they, in orientation and all through the process since I've worked there, they're always like, oh, we're very supportive of people who want to go back to school. We love it when people do that. And I do it and feel like I get kicked in the teeth.
Yeah. So sounds like you feel perhaps like they're not holding up their end of the bargain.
Not at all.
Like maybe there was some false advertisement.
Yes.
In regards to practicum and the support that they would offer for you.
Right. And
So,
I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. I keep doing what if, what if this doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? Then I'm going to, not get my practicum done and then not graduate, and all that school, all the time I've put in is going to be a waste.
So those are some pretty big what ifs that you just mentioned. Let's talk more, if you're okay with it, about these what if questions. What if this practicum doesn't work out? And what if I don't get my practicum done? What if you don't get it done, or what if it doesn't work out? What does that look like for you in your mind?
The end of the world.
The end of the world.
A lot of time, energy, and effort spent for nothing.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that if you don't get the support that you need to get this practicum established and get off on the right foot, that kind of ends in doomsday. Like, yeah. It was all for naught, and the last, however many years of your life that you put into this whole grad school experience will have been for nothing.
Exactly.
So
it's going to be time and money that I've taken away from my family that I can't get back.
Okay. So do you think that thought is prevalent in your mind often when you find yourself in these situations, when you're getting stressed and you're aggravated? Like, what if I don't get my practicum done? Like, my whole grad school experience is ruined.
Every day.
Does that seem, I guess, accurate as far as maybe what thoughts or what feelings you're having in those situations?
Yeah, and it feels like it's landing on me. I should have done something that, should have done something different, or, that it'll be my fault that it doesn't work out.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to take a minute or two to kind of look at these thoughts more, because that's a pretty significant thought that it sounds like you're having. Like, if this doesn't work out, this whole experience is going to be ruined, or my whole grad school experience is going to have been a waste of my time. And so when you have thoughts like that in these situations, what types of feelings do those thoughts evoke in you? Like, how does it make you feel?
Worthless. yeah, I'm gonna say worthless, kind of heartbroken in that or failure, I guess would be more like it, that I failed at doing this, and I'll be setting a bad example for my kids.
So we have a lot of negative thoughts about your value in relation to if this one experience doesn't work maybe the way that you hope that it does.
Right.
Do you think, in the moment when you're dealing with those issues, it sounds like you kind of automatically go, I start out with, I need support and I need help, from my boss or my coworker or my peer in regards to getting this practicum established. And in the past, you've had, unfortunately, some less than ideal experiences with your first practicum. And so you kind of go from, I have to make this work, or this whole experience is going to be ruined. And then you just said that when you have those thoughts, you feel worthless, you feel sad, you feel stressed, you feel worried, you feel scared. Those are some of the adjectives that you used earlier in the session. So do you see kind of how the thoughts that you have about the whole practicum experience, and kind of those doomsday thoughts, for lack of a better term, like if I don't make this work, it's all over with, it's all going to be ruined. Do you feel like those thoughts impact maybe your feelings and your mood towards the situation?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, because when I get to thinking about that and how all of this, if they don't let me find a happy medium and a practicum to do, why do I want to work for them? So I'm gonna say, my day gets worse when I think about it like that.
Your day gets worse, maybe your mood gets worse.
I go home and I'm crabby, and it's not my kid's fault that work is being a pain.
Right. So it sounds like
cooperating.
Sounds like you can recognize and see how those thoughts that you're having about the situation might impact your mood at that given time, and also as your day progresses. So,
yeah.
and that's that whole process there, and one of the things that I want to work on and talk about, as our session continue, that's the CBT model, or the cognitive behavioral model, and it's all about how the thoughts that we have, how those impact our behaviors and our moods in response to situations. So does that make sense to you, now that you kind of have been able to reflect back to me your own personal experience and your own personal examples of how you're in the situation and you have these negative thoughts, and then that kind of impacts and influences your mood for the rest of the day? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And those thoughts that we talked about too, that's another big part of CBT. You talked about the thoughts of, if I don't make this work, it's going to be, my whole experience is going to be ruined, or it's the end of the world, or I'm worthless. Those thoughts are probably not necessarily conscious thoughts that you're purposely having in those situations. At least that's the assumption that I'm making. Would you think that that's accurate?
Yeah, they're always there. I'm going to say, when I start thinking about getting my practicum or getting closer to starting it, then I start their deadlines, because we're just starting to come up on deadlines of things that we have to have submitted, and this, that, and the other. And I hear people talking about, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And here I'm sitting like, I hope they're going to come up with, hope I don't have to quit my job, is pretty much the first thought that hits. And then it just snowballs from there.
Right. So you have these negative, unconscious thoughts that kind of pop into your head that you don't even realize you're having. And so that's another, along with the the CBT model that we just discussed, what we call those in CBT are automatic thoughts. And we call them automatic because we don't even realize that we're having them. They just pop into our mind without, any conscious effort on our part. So what I'd like to focus on, if you're okay with it, especially over the next week between now and the next time that we see each other, is maybe working to try to identify some of those automatic thoughts. I wonder if over the next week, if you find yourself having to deal with coworkers or managers in regards to the practicum, because like you said, your deadline is coming up for when you have to have this, kind of hashed out. Do you think if you start to notice your mood changing, that maybe you could do a little bit of homework and maybe jot down like what thoughts and what things are kind of going through your mind at that time? And then we can come back later and kind of look at those thoughts and see how those thoughts are impacting your mood and maybe what we can do to kind of alter those thoughts.
Well, I'm pretty confident it'll be the same things, but I can do it.
Okay. You think we can make a commitment over the next week that you at least on a couple of occasions jot down some of your thoughts for me?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess unless there's anything else pressing that you really want to touch on today, we're about out of time for this week's session. And so what we've talked about so far is that we have some stressed out feelings. We have some worried, anxious, scared feelings that are all kind of centered around work and practicum and making that work, and they kind of stem from poor experiences that you've had in the past with your first practicum experience, and a lack of support from the people who are supposed to be there to support you during this experience. And so we've kind of talked on the different automatic thoughts that maybe you experience in these situations, and the cognitive behavioral model, and how those kind of work hand in hand, and how those thoughts in turn impact your mood. And so our plan between now and next week is, if you see yourself, or if you feel yourself noticing yourself kind of having a shift in mood, that you're going to jot down some of those thoughts and some of those feelings that go through your mind.
Okay.
Does that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
Okay. I do want to take the time before we wrap up for good to check in with you and get your thoughts and feelings about today's session. How do you think it went? Was there anything that you liked or disliked about the session? Or is there anything that you want to see done differently when we meet next?
I think it was okay. I mean, that's just kind of what's going on in my life and where I'm at right now. So I think if we can figure out a way for me to not be so stressed out about all this, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Well, I think we definitely have a good topic to focus on, and a foundation for some things that we can work on in upcoming sessions. And so when we meet next week, we'll review your homework that we just assigned, and we'll take a look at some more of these automatic thoughts, and we'll keep working together. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, I will see you next week, okay?
All right. See you then.
Thank you, Tracy.
Bye.
Bye.